All right, today we're diving into a place that's a real paradox. It's a global spiritual headquarters and an independent country, all squeezed into the middle of Rome. We're talking about the Vatican, of course. So, how does this tiny, tiny spot on the map hold so much sway? Let's get into it.
So get this, it is the smallest independent state in the entire world. I mean, you could literally walk from one end to the other in just a few minutes. And yet, its influence is absolutely massive. That's the puzzle, right? This tiny little place with this giant global footprint, it's what makes the Vatican so fascinating.
So, what is it exactly? Well, it's kind of wearing two hats. First, it's its own country, a sovereign city-state, but it's also the absolute center of the Catholic Church. Think of it as the headquarters for more than 1 billion people's faith around the globe. Okay, so to really get how the Vatican became what it is today, we've got to rewind. And I mean rewind a long way, almost 2,000 years. The story of how it went from just a tomb to this powerhouse is, well, it's pretty incredible.
This whole thing didn't happen overnight, of course. It starts way back in the 4th century. You've got Emperor Constantine, who builds the very first basilica right on top of St. Peter's burial site. A couple of centuries later, the Vatican is already being treated as its own separate territory. Fast forward a bit, there's this period where the papacy's actually in France. But in 1377, they come back to Rome for good. And then, the grand finale, right? In 1564, after 158 years of work, the St. Peter's Basilica that we all recognize is finally finished, with geniuses like Michelangelo leaving their mark on it. What a project. But look, the Vatican isn't just about governance. It's also basically one of the greatest art museums on the planet. I mean, it's a treasure chest, just overflowing with priceless art and incredible architecture. It's like a physical storybook of faith and pure human genius. And speaking of incredible architecture, St. Peter's Basilica. Just think about this. It is the number one, the single largest Christian church in the world. The whole point of its massive scale was to just leave you speechless, to inspire awe. And you know what? It works. It absolutely does. And it's not just the basilica. All crammed into this tiny space, you've got these absolute titans of culture. You have St. Peter's, of course. You have the Sistine Chapel. I mean, come on. And then there are the Vatican museums, just packed to the rafters with art collected over hundreds and hundreds of years. Honestly, any one of these would be a major world landmark on its own. So you have to ask, how did all this incredible stuff end up here? Well, for centuries, the church was basically the biggest patron of the arts. We're talking about them bankrolling legends like Michelangelo, Raphael, Caravaggio, and they weren't just hiring them to, paint a pretty ceiling. This was a power move. It was about projecting authority and inspiring faith. And in doing so, they literally shaped the entire history of Western art. Okay, so this legacy of art, this incredible architecture, it's all a physical representation of the Vatican's power. And when you trace that power back to its source, it all centers on one person, the Pope. So what do we even mean by papal authority? In a nutshell, it's the Pope's ultimate power over Catholics everywhere. Now, this isn't like a president's or a prime minister's power. It's spiritual. It's rooted in church teaching, in the belief that this authority comes straight from Jesus Christ, passed down through the ages. And this authority really rests on 3 main pillars. First up is teaching. The Pope's job is to interpret and teach the official doctrine of the church. Second, you've got governance. He's basically the CEO, overseeing the entire administration of the church all over the world. And third, there's spiritual leadership. He's the main spiritual guide for Catholics everywhere. Okay, but managing a community of more than 1 billion people, that's a huge job, right? You can't just do that from a single office. You need a serious, complex, super organized system to make it all work. And probably the best way to wrap your head around it is to just think of it like a government, with different departments where each one has its own specific job to do. So let's look at the key players in this structure. You've got the College of Cardinals. These are the top-level bishops who are the Pope's main advisors. Then you have the congregations, which are basically like government ministries, handling all the day-to-day stuff. And finally, there are the pontifical councils, which are groups that advise on all kinds of modern issues. So you take this epic history, you add in all that world-changing art, and you mix it with this highly centralized power structure, and what you get is a place that has had a truly massive impact on Western culture.
And that cultural footprint is just everywhere. The art the Vatican paid for, that's what fills our museums. The music created for its services, that influenced composers for hundreds of years. And maybe most importantly, for Catholics all over the world, it's still this incredibly powerful symbol of who they are and what unites them.
Really, it boils down to this. As one source said so well, it's a unique place that has played a profound role in shaping the history, faith, and culture of Christianity. And its influence goes way beyond just one faith. It's really left a permanent mark on the whole world. Which kind of leaves us with one big question to chew on, right? In our super fast, totally modern world, how does this tiny little city, built on ancient beliefs, still matter so much? It's a question that really gets you thinking about the enduring power of faith, history, and institutions. Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.